Good morning. Happy Monday. Welcome back to Retake the Week. It's been another busy 7 days in the world of Counter-Strike, specifically 2 now that we are officially just locked into it. There's no going back, there's no regretting, and I do hope we start shifting the historical record to reflect it. Stop talking about Counter-Strike since the start of Go and start talking about it since the start of 2, because realistically, I feel the separation is distinct enough that we can move on from clinging to the past. Quack, I don't know how much attention you've been playing to not DreamHack, to PGL Cluj-Napoca. Some of us still have some mental confusion about which events are what, clearly. But it's been an interesting run. I know you had some thoughts about the Swiss system initially, and now trying to get Valve to like bow to the peer pressure of converting to this sort of condensed Swiss. I mean, did you enjoy the games at least, or were you still too focused on the bracket?
Yeah. I enjoyed the games. I just don't have anything interesting to say about it. Like, my talking points this week are going to be much more about the event as a whole, more than the my opinions on specific teams and such. Actually, the one team I probably would have been interested in watching was Mouse, but I actually didn't watch any of the games really because they were on quite early.
Yeah, they had those 8 a.m. starts for me, and I'm like, you're expecting me to catch that? God damn it. That's rough. That's way too rough for me. And as much as I love CS, getting up before 8 a.m. just to watch the new Mouse roster, not quite there yet. We're not quite there yet. It's exciting, but not that exciting. Before we get into the retake, before we talk about all these things in more detail, we have to thank the members who make these shows more interesting and also more available. So a big shout out to them. They get access to interviews like the one with Regin, the BTS for this show, where you get to hear our mostly unfiltered thoughts about each other. This week, I believe, it's me just insulting Quack for a bit, but that's okay. He needed correcting. You see, what is this? What is this? Actual homeless behavior. They also get access to prospect demos, which are basically a deeper insight into me and the kids that I have to watch on a day-to-day basis to try and figure out who the hell prospects are going to be. Sometimes good, a lot of the times bad. One of the most recent episodes being a player picked by Quack.
Sorry, I watched that.
Rather uninteresting.
Which game did you watch? Because I feel like you were watching one where he had like 9 kills. Feels like he was set up to
he
fail.
ends up with like a really strong rating on that map. It was just weak. I'm sorry. I saw nothing of any interest. But yes, if you want to see that kind of breakdown, more detailed, but also just hear random ramblings from me, that's usually what those episodes are. But yeah, Quack, I assume you have nothing new to promote. We already know you're working at Fragbite, you know?
Yeah. The project I was working on was an interview with Draken, so if you want to read more about Johnny Speeds and how they put together a roster. It was kind of brief. He's not the most guy to talk to. But, you know, they have Mail 09 now. I'm actually not sure if we talked about that. That should be in the shuffles, but we did
talk about it, and I did tweet about it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if I pissed off Johnny Speeds or what, but all of them were like liking the tweet, and I was just like, I'm not sure what's going on here because I got a weird response from Johnny Speeds.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's a good team. Yeah, picking up Mail 09 is nice. He said a lot of nice things about him. He said that like he is very mature for like being 15 years old, like in terms of in-game playing. Stop it, man! Stop it.
15-year-olds very mature for their age, aren't they?
I'm quoting Draken. He has to stand for that. But yeah, it was. You should go read it. It's really nice, and we have more stuff coming out soon around that stuff.
Okay. All right, so more Johnny Speeds propaganda coming soon. I know you haven't had enough of it from this show. Quack endlessly talking about them, but hey, he's really.
Did you know they were barred from CCT?
No, I didn't actually. You never mentioned it. But all right, Cluj-Napoca. We're still in the throes of the Swiss. 3 games in, I think, for everyone. Yeah, 3 games in. We're expecting to start the games in about an hour or so for the rest of the day. So for once, we're not having to live react. We do have Mouse Falcons, Wildcard Big coming up at 11 a.m. But for now, yeah, we have 3 games played. FaZe and Mongols, 3-0. Rather predictable for most most people. The one part that's a bit shocking is maybe that Eternal Fire are only 2-1, but to be fair to them, they only lost a phase. They've beaten everyone else. It's not that big of a blip, considering the up and down nature of Eternal Fire. The rough with the smooth, the two-face of CS, as I called them on Power 10. They are more than capable of losing that series, but no shocks as well. Well, some shocks as well. It's an old school nickname, yes. It is an old school nickname for 0-3 Imperial Valkyries, no one's really surprised. Bit surprising is the 0-3 FlyQuest after a loss to Saw, and this was meant to be an OT topic, but I felt like wrecking them now. Losing to Saw, I didn't think FlyQuest were that bad this year. I thought they'd made some strides, some improvements, but clearly, maybe not. If they're able to lose to that roster, still a lot to work on. I don't know.
Dead roster, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what your view is on that, but this is just not impressive for me.
Yeah, no, FlyQuest are still dog shit. Regali hasn't moved the needle too much, it seems. They have, look, I mean, to be entirely fair to them, some of their opening games were definitely rough. We even got to know ahead of the event that this is basically a dead roster, and they're cutting 2 and they're going to go international afterwards. But
do you have any leak on who?
I mean, no fucking idea. I don't know if they know. But yeah, they are. The quote from Story was, "There's nobody in Portugal who can help us," I think. But we're going to talk about it later. Yeah, they have a phase in the opening draw. That's always going to be a loss.
Are you talking about Saw now?
Yeah, I'm talking about Saw. But
okay.
I mean,
I thought we were talking about FlyQuest, and then all of a sudden you started
I was talking about FlyQuest.
Like, we're not talking about the FlyQuest.
I did just mix them up. But yeah, FlyQuest also have like Falcons as an opening game. I think that is, as much as we hate on Falcons, that's going to be a loss for FlyQuest, I think. Then, like, big, it's close enough, and they have that 13-1 on Inferno, where I feel like they should win the game after that. And then losing against Saw is just, I mean, it's a dead team. It's a dead team Morgan. I think Sponge literally said this. Like, that's so sad. Like, that's losing a map to a dead team, and then they lose the series. Like, yeah, FlyQuest are kind of bad, which is the coldest take of 2025.
Right, yeah. That is very cold. But no, previewing the event, we did say it seems weird that INS is now just bad, magically. It's not even like you watch these games, and it used to be, INS would put up a decent amount of fragging fight, but he wouldn't necessarily be able to win a lot. Now it's like Vexite can shoot, Regali can shoot. INS is just another bot, almost. Like, what's going on? Why is he all of a sudden taking this massive dip in form? At this event, they've lost 3 straight, obviously. And his numbers, I'm just going to whip them out now.
It is not even...
Like, he's
it is not even just this event, yeah.
And it's been this year, really. Since the addition of Regali, I said on the show that I thought Regali had, before this one started, played as the best AWPer on the team and the best rifler, which is a bit of a problem, considering you're supposed to have INS best player in Australia helping out. 0.54 KPR. Not really what I expect from a player of his standing. I mean, it's a bright spot for Vexite, I guess, who does, attract the ire of some people. But you needed INS to really beat that Saw roster, and if you're not going to have him, it's just not good enough, is it? It's just not enough in terms of the fragging. And that's.
Do you know something? INS has had like 2 good maps out of 17 this year. And one of them was the big 13-1, which eventually was just a loss anyway because he disappeared.
Yeah.
He's had decent ratings.
It's
just his teammates have... Yeah, he's had decent ratings, just he's been outrun by his teammates even in those maps. So he's had like 1 or 2 maps where he was a good, like, playing well. So, fuck is going on? Anyway, yeah.
It's just bad.
Are we really this interested in FlyQuest? I'm just going to say.
No, I just felt like bringing them up because
yeah.
I'm just recapping briefly what's gone on, and I'm just realizing, they have been this bad. Not expecting it.
They have been.
Let's talk about
actually, okay, there is a team that I also think have been kind of bad that I kind of want to bring up, and that's MIBR, because I think MIBR had a prime position to make playoffs in this event, and now I'm absolutely not sure they make it.
Timeout. Every series they've lost, I thought they'd lose. So, unless, like, must have very different estimations of this roster, because every series they've lost 3D Max, they lost a wildcard. I think they're just on the way they've been playing. they are the underdogs coming into those series.
They are. I still probably would have put them, with a better chance to make it through.
The style in which they've lost has been shocking. Their top fragger in both those series is Exit. Insani, not particularly special. But overall, look, think of it like this. Against Wildcard, they have the worst IGL. They don't have the depth of firepower to really outshine them. I'm not saying they don't have better individuals in theory, because you've got Lucauzi and Sani, you've got Safe. In theory, should be better, but based on how they've been playing, zero guarantee of that.
Mm.
And then they don't overall have anything else to really offer. Like, do they have a better map pool? No, we have no basis for that either. And then 3D Max, again, they have all the same issues. All the same issues in that game. They're going to get outcalled. They don't have the magical firepower bonus to actually go and outfrag them. And if you look at the result, it just makes sense. It just makes sense.
Yeah.
They needed insane overperformances based on what we've seen this year to beat both those teams. So no, I think MIBR being shit is MIBR being MIBR this year. They've just been that way. Right. There's nothing much to it in my eyes.
Do you think they lose to Astralis?
Or pretty guaranteed, yeah. I don't see how they beat them. I mean, Astralis have been a fair mess in their own right this year, because usually, last year I brought up a lot. During the first 6 months, they just had this group stage buff where you just had Yabi, Stown, Device all popping off like crazy. And the roster was able to just outfrag people. This year, they've had nothing comparable. Like, even when they've had great Device performances, they've struggled to get something out of Stown, out of Yabi. Vice versa, really. They've taken it in turns to be good and terrible. Even though the removal of Device from the IGL role should have opened things up a bit. Should have, I think, allowed them a little more mental breathing room. Bringing in the IGL they're used to in Stown and Yabi, I thought would be great for them. Instead, they've just been horrible. But still, even with all that going against Astralis, I still think they probably have the better calling. And form for form, the overall better individuals. Like, just in terms of form. Because it's Insani or death for MIBR. Lucauzi's been horrible. Safe has been horrible. I mean, drops the IGL doing IGL things. There's nothing for me to believe in this MIBR roster right now. Except that those dope fucking uniforms they have in their pictures. I have no reason to really be a big fan. Yeah, that's long the short of it. Your gate on your mic is not sensitive enough. That did not get picked up, that one word.
I didn't say a single word. I was just...
Oh, it looked like you said something. It just didn't get picked up. Right.
I was just making faces.
One of my main topics, I watch Wildcard with some intensity. And usually I'm watching them because I'm expecting at least a half dozen times a series some kind of beautifully constructed, perfectly timed, perfectly executed call that makes me go, this is why I watch CS. And whilst I have had a couple rounds here and there, I saw a great Ancient play, it's basically just, I'm going to summarize it now, just a massive amount of pressure thrown A instantly out of spawn to then just two-man contact lurk through the mid-smoke to grab immense space and timing. They then get two opening kills, throw the entire advantage away, and then win it in the late round. And that's the point. Their late rounds have been recovered because their early rounds have been well thought out, well planned. Their mid rounds look shaky. If I have to criticize Stanislaus' calling, because I've been very generous with him, to be honest, just how much I'm willing to compliment him. If I have to be critical, the mid rounds seem to keep falling apart. I'm not sure how much of that is him, how much of that is the individuals. But late round, when you need a miracle, you just look to love. Believe in the power of love. Because Fuzi has been ridiculous in these late rounds. I'm just looking at his stats for this event. His clutching is 99 out of 100. 99 out of 100 with 0.09 clutch points per round, which is absurd if you know anything about clutch points. Like, that's really strong given the sample size here of 3 entire best of 3s. He wins all his 1v1s. His time alive is a minute 15. Like, he's just been so clutch for them. Every single scenario that I think is unwinnable, he makes winnable right now. And I'm just mind blown. Absolutely mind blown. Those Tech 9 clutches especially, absolutely absurd. He's got more 1v2 wins than he has 1v1 wins. Like, that's how difficult the situations have been that he's been ripping back in their favor. So I have to give him a lot of credit and just say Wildcard has me believing in the power of love. Isn't that cute?
That is cute. His name is Love, actually.
It's written love. Shut up. It's like telling me Palmy is Palman. Like, no, that's not how you wrote it. I'm sorry.
He is.
It is the power of love.
All right. No, yeah, it's been really great seeing Wildcard at this event. Jeba, unfortunately, maybe a little bit of miss in a couple of games. I think that Mongols game could have been a win, considering how, at least Inferno, considering how close it is. But I do feel like it's Jeba letting the team down there a bit. But Fuzi has been nuclear, and he was in that game as well. Like both maps, I feel like he was really, really like. I liked him in a couple of rounds where like he was being really proactive, and it's like he's taking a peek, and like I'm thinking like, why do you take this? You're gonna lose. Like this is a nice peek, but you're not simple. And then he wins it, and I'm like, whoa, okay, that's a kind of new. It's not a new Fuzi. We've seen this before, but on Wildcard, he's been a little bit up and down. That's kind of a new level for him. So, really nice to see. Really nice to see, actually.
Yeah, and you're right about Jaba. I mean, Jaba's a player. I'm rooting for him. He's a prospect, but he's had cripplingly bad series. And the fact that they are so close to beating Mongols, despite Jaba just being completely absent. Usually, when they're playing Inferno, they've got a reliable piece in Jaba, playing out of the pit, playing in the little semi-lurks and trade spots he has. Instead, he just went missing. He just wasn't hitting anything. So they've been more leaning on Susp, who, credit where credit's due. If you need a 110 rated rifler, no matter the context, you could pretty much go Susp, do your thing, and he will. He's been outstanding at that, and it's led some people. I know for Yumi, it was frustrating that when he played NA, he wasn't smurfing. And he didn't realize, like, doing the curb stompy European and North America thing wasn't his role on this team. They were building to play proper CS, and Susp's job was not to just run out and kill everyone. Probably could have in a lot of these North American games, but instead, he's at this event, putting up his numbers, having his impact, being Susp, being Suspicious P, and yeah, it's all to support this Fuzi pop-off, this bonkers pop-off from Fuzi. Inspiring people, I think, to go buy that jersey if they could, because it's weird, but it's weird in a good way.
Nice jersey, yeah. Yeah, nice to see Wildcard.
Yeah, I know you have a point that's just the entire format, so if you want to go into that, like everything about it, because I know, as I joked earlier, you had some messages for Valve in terms of how they should be running their Swiss systems. So what do you like, what do you don't like about what we've seen at PGL?
We do all, like, I think all of us want to get rid of best of ones in major Swiss stages. I've been kind of like, well, the rationale they give is that, well, you need a shorter booking, like for the venue and stuff, because the event gets shorter here and there and there. And it's like, yeah, that might actually be beneficial. And I was like, I understand why you're doing that, but please at least reduce the amount of them. Like, we can have opening best of ones, but for like in the rounds in the middle, there's no need to have them. And most of us feel that way. So that's why I thought it was really interesting. And I think I mentioned this last week as well, that this event is a 9-day event running the exact same format as the major does for the top 16, with all best of threes in both the Swiss stage and then the same playoff bracket. They don't have a show match, but they have a third place decider instead. So it's basically the same. And I was like, wow, okay. So if they make this Swiss stage work without a hitch, there should be no reason for Valve not to do the same, because they are running 8 best of threes a day, and so far there's been no issues. Like PGL, like props to PGL. We had a bunch more tech issues in Katowice than we had.
Shit tons, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if we've had a single one which was more than like the usual stuff, like a random disconnect and somebody else, or like somebody, very quick ones. We haven't had the same ones where like you're sitting for 15 minutes and like you have to go to a break on the broadcast because it's such a lengthy tech delay. We haven't had those whatsoever, because those could have really screwed things up. Like when you're running 8 best of threes a day for like 4 games back to back, that's the kind of stuff that can really screw up your schedule. But we've had long games, we've had no problems. Like there is the early start. Like for me, it's a 9 a.m. start. For you, it would be 8 a.m. even.
Yep.
And that does kind of like that does kind of suck. It's also weekday games, so like you're probably like most people are probably awake anyway. But also like if you can't watch an 8 a.m. game, are you really gonna watch a 10 a.m. game, which would have been more like the regular start time anyway? So I like the idea of this. So it's really nice to see it working. And there's really no reason why Valve shouldn't do this now. I'm not sure how, like, normally they do the exact same thing, except they run the first 2 rounds of best 2-1s on the same day. So that's one less day for the Swiss stage. But PGL have managed to do it by adding one more day to the Swiss stage. And that hasn't been an issue. So I'm kind of just saying there's really is no valid reason, in my opinion, for Valve not to do this. At least to like split the second round out and do best of 3s there. So I'm starting to think that this should be the new major format. But yeah. It's just in general, I felt like, okay, if this works, that's perfect. But it also could just completely falter. That's kind of how I felt going into it, because it is just the kind of thing where, like, if we have one tick delay on day 1, we might end up having to push everything forward, and that would have been complicated. This is fine. Super good.
That's always
I love it.
That's been my how do I put this? I came into this expecting tech delays, expecting problems, not because of the nature of the format, more because it's PGL, to be blunt. And instead we had, seemingly smooth service. I can't really fault them. Obviously, as soon as you do get a delay, it does kind of screw things up. If it happens, and it hasn't happened so far. So fair enough. PGL on their home turf in Romania. Everything's running smoothly. Funnily enough, can't complain. But you did have some questions about how the Swiss is actually being done.
Yes.
Like, what's going on with the seeding? Have you managed to come to a conclusion on this? Because we were pre-show trying to figure out, well, you were. I wasn't really paying attention, but you were trying to find out how they've done this. Do you have anything resembling a conclusion?
No, so the opening round is exactly like the major. It is number 1 seed plays number 9, number 2 seed plays number 10, etc. This is exactly how the major works. Round 2 was exactly how the major works, split it into 1-0 and 0-1. And number 1 plays number 8, number 9 plays 16, etc., etc. And this is how it works. Basically, reseed, like, this is how it works. So then I was trying to figure out, okay, are they using book holds? So I ran the simulator, which is like the same one that we use for majors and stuff. And I was like, okay, so this is what has happened. And if that's true, this should be the next round of games. And it was nothing like that. Then I was like, okay, are they maybe like doing the last bounty thing where you inherit the seed of the team you upset? And it's like, no, that shouldn't have screwed things up to this degree, because we've only had like 1 or 2 seeding upsets. And then I was like, okay, are you maybe reseeding on a live ranking? Could that be something here and there? And no, like nothing makes sense. And I'm kind of sad about it, because there's a couple of games that I think just really shouldn't be happening here because of it in the 1-1 round and in the subsequent rounds. So as an example, in the 1-1 round, we had MIBR, the number 6 seed, playing 3D Max, the number 7 seed, which feels very broken, while at the same time Falcons, the 1-1 seed, got to play Astralis, the number 5 seed, Falcons, got to play Astralis, the 12 seed. And it like nothing really seems to make sense. And then at the same time, you had stuff like, I think it would have been Big had to play Eternal Fire. Meanwhile, Complexity got off quite easy. Oh, sorry, no, Complexity wouldn't have been there. Just nothing really makes sense is the bottom line. Like, nothing in this system really makes sense. And I'm wondering if maybe they've just fucking randomized the games or something, which is a really boring way to run a Swiss bracket.
It almost defeats the point of Swiss, doesn't it? Because it's supposed to make more sense than that.
You could, if that was the case, like, you're obviously still doing that. The winners play the winners and the losers play the losers, and like your record matters. But that's kind of a lazy way to run a Swiss, and it means that you have teams like, should Mongols have played Pain? Like, should they have played Complexity, Wildcard, and Pain?
Oh,
I'm not sure.
The Liquipede explanation is a bit weird. Rounds 2 to 5 are seeded using the Buckhole system and team's initial seed. So
have they actually written it out? They might actually have written this out. Okay. Rounds 2 to 5 are seeded using book system and teams' initial seeds. Matches are best of 3s.
Yeah, there's not much more explanation than that.
That should be the same format as the major, though.
So maybe your initial seeds were off.
No, they're fine. They're definitely fine because they match up with how things should be. No, it isn't the same as the major. The major is different. Or at least they don't write out the seeding system in the major. They've written it in a different way. I'll have to check this with somebody at Liquipedia, maybe. But yeah, I've just been really dumbfounded with how this works. I haven't been able to figure it out because it shouldn't be book codes either. It shouldn't be. Okay. I'll figure it out eventually, But if anybody knows, this is a public call. Somebody, if anybody knows, please DM me on Twitter, please.
Yeah, someone's figured it out because you haven't, and I'm not going to try. I'm just here to watch the games and talk about it. But all right, a team who's gone 3-0 that we haven't really touched on is FaZe. Now, they got a layup in Saw, but then they had to beat Eternal Fire and beat the new MAUs. And what's been noticeable for me is as FaZe have ramped up, because they started out very weak this year, it's clear that we actually have the side benefit that I mentioned when talking about Elige coming into this roster, replacing Rops. And that's some of the, at least conceptual overlap between Rops and Frozen has been removed. And Frozen gets to be unleashed and do exactly what he wants to do. Now, he still takes like this very select, very curated group of opening frags, or opening fights. But overall, yes, it is about trading. It is about closing rounds. And he's been doing it very well. Now, it does help that at this event, they do have a massive step up from Elige. Aside from Nuke, which he still hasn't figured out on this team. He still does not know what he's doing on Nuke with FaZe Clan. But Elige has been a lot better, and Frozen has been absolutely shining, and he's been their key star. So I'm actually rather impressed with what I've seen so far. The problem is they've only played one team I consider top 5 right now, and that's Eternal Fire. They're on the only other team that is in that sort of range for me at this event is Mongols. They won't have to face them until probably the final, if they're both the 3-0 seeds. I'm not going crazy. They shouldn't be on the same side of the bracket, so we won't see them. Yeah, Mongols and FaZe shouldn't be on the same side of the bracket in the playoffs. They're both 3-0.
Should be the final, yeah.
So we're not going to see that matchup till very late. But if you look at how they beat Eternal Fire, crushing them on Dust 2. Sure, they picked it's their map, but still, Eternal Fire on Dust 2, they've still got some dangerous pieces to play against. And then beating them on Inferno in the Decider, I think that's fairly... That's something you're very happy with. Sure, you could beat them on Anubis, but that's their kind of home map. It has been for a while. Jota's been their guy on that map recently, and Xantares had a pop-off, so fair enough. But being able to contain and outplay this roster on Dust 2 and on Inferno, two maps I don't think they're bad at, really. At least Dust 2 they're suited for, and Inferno they like to play. I'm impressed. I'm impressed with this turnaround. And sure, not sure to make of the MAUs win yet, but they haven't looked terrible, have MAUs Sports. So maybe there is more credit to be given for that win than I'm currently thinking. But all in all, yeah, we have seen this sort of deliverance on this promise. Like, they are able to get a little more out of Frozen than we used to get. Maybe the empty calorie Frozen era is over. Less of an ice cube, more of an ice cream now. And Elige stepping up might be partly enabling it, but I do think a large part of it is that removed passiveness from Rops, allowing Frozen to really shine in those responsibilities.
Yeah, I haven't been able to watch any of the FaZe games, but I'm going to be really excited too in the playoffs if this is Frozen's form. Because I'm looking at the stats now, and like, in terms of the empty calories thing, he has similar levels of ADR to some of his previous events where like he would have been quite empty. Like, I'm looking at IEM Rio, for example, last year. He had a 0.7 KPR, 1.11 impact, 0.61 DPR. That's not particularly good, but he still ends up with a 116 rating because that's kind of what Frozen was like. Compare that to now. He has a similar ADR, but he's got, and he still has a lower DPR, of course, because they've been stomping these games, but he has a significantly higher impact and a 0.82 KPR instead, which is much better. So I'm sort of, and cast is also comparable. So like, he's not really abusing in the same degree as he would have said before. I'm not really sure what comes from though. He's having a bit more opening frags, not a huge amount.
No, it comes from the later rounds. That's what he's still thriving mid to late round. He's not a massive openings monster. He never has been, but he's always, as I said, he has this curated selection of opening fights he does take, like in certain moments, like certain group fights as well. You'll see him more involved, but he's never been that high volume, constantly pushed out, constantly trying to find those openings kind of player. And that's been the job of Rain. It's been the job of Karrigan. It's now also the job of Elige, quite importantly, to go do that. So no, I don't expect that from him ever. It's just important that he is able to deliver round-winning impact in the ways he likes to play, without having to worry too much about, that other rifler also being on the server.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see in the playoffs. I'm going to try to watch that in more detail, because we said that this is probably an event that FaZe should win. It's one
of their few opportunities to win early on.
Yeah, it was most definitely between them, Mongols, and Eternal Fire, and I think maybe even like there's an argument to say that the FaZe beating Eternal Fire there was an upset win. I think some people would have said it based on how much you value the events that Eternal Fire have already played, and how poor FaZe have been so far. So this, especially now, I think this is looking like a FaZe win, this event, if they can sustain it. Otherwise, it's a bit of like, now you have a whole new problem, and it's going to be consistency. But yeah, I mean, let's see what happens. I think they should win. They should be on the opposite side as the Mongols, which is going to be a banger final if we get there.
No upsets, please. That'd be an amazing one. I mean, the only upset that's allowed is Eternal Fire, and even then, I do rather see FaZe Mongols, like rather than FaZe Eternal Fire or Mongols Eternal Fire. However it shakes out, I would like to see them face each other in the grand final. It'd be very helpful for me in terms of judging these two teams I think up against each other.
If I'm just briefly trying to predict the playoff bracket here, we have either Pain or VP qualifying today, either 3D Max or Eternal Fire, and Mouse or Falcons. Probably Eternal Fire. Mouse and Falcons is a bit.
Yeah, I think Mouse is a coin flip to me. Like,
do you know a funny thing here? I think Mouse take it in this game, but I think they're going to go out in the quarterfinal anyway, and then Falcons are going to make it through in the 2-2 bracket, but they're going to make the semis. I think it's going to be a weird little reversal there, I think.
You think because when Falcons make semis, but with their seeding, they'll be playing one of our 3-0 or 3-1 teams. Like, I don't see.
No, they're actually pretty good seeded. I don't know how the book course is going to impact them, and maybe they do a reseed before the playoffs, but they're actually pretty good seeded, where I think they would probably end up playing somebody like VP or Pain, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
We'll see, but I doubt that. I should put it that way.
So anyway, if I'm talking about this bracket, I think FaZe are going to have a pretty easy quarterfinal, and the semi is probably going to be, going off standing, it's probably going to be Eternal Fire, Falcons, Mouse. Like if you're going off of the way things are standing right now. So then, and like they've already beaten Eternal Fire and Mouse, and they can definitely beat Falcons, no problem. So should be FaZe winning. But I would be extremely excited if Mongols were able to take this home, because that is a $400,000 payout and a legit big event win. Like, as much as the opposition here is a bit here and there, that's a legit big event win for Mongols. The first one we've had, I think. Which nice milestone for them. Still playing. There's still, even by HLTV ranking, there's 5 top 10 teams in attendance, and that's solid as fuck. So yeah. It's going to be a fun playoffs anyway.
Should be very fun. A team that I hope ends up there in a weird way. Not worried with that weird, actually. A team I just hope ends up there, because I've been rooting for them, is 3D Max. Now, they've been playing some fantastic CS, and especially on Inferno, where they've been basically like Inferno main as well. They've joined the list of teams who are playing that map incredibly well. I'm just worried about, they always have this problem with their they're volatile, right? They are very volatile, 3D Max. And they need to beat Eternal Fire today, if they want to go through today, which I think is difficult given how the map pools match up and given the fact that whilst they are fun and explosive, they don't have as Antares. Realistically, they just don't have that sort of level of player. And the 2-2 games they end up having to play, there's a good chance, given the fact that they haven't played Pain yet, I think they end up playing Pain if Pain lose to VP. Yeah, I think it's going to be rough for them. They're going to have some difficult games. So I'm rooting for 3D Max. I love the way they're playing CS. I just felt like giving them a shout out here.
Yeah.
They've been playing some really good stuff. They have beaten VP already. Yeah, it's difficult. But they are my little pet favorite right now. They might have to place actually someone who wins one of those 1-2 games. I haven't even considered those teams. Someone like a big.
Yeah, it could be somebody like a big, like a wild card.
Yeah, which could get rough, but they have been outstanding. I mean, the addition of Body, I said it was 2 parts. It's like addition by subtraction, and it was addition by addition when reviewing the move. So far this event, Body hasn't been anything special. Gravity has been a bit of a bot. But it hasn't really mattered. They had such a great level out of Lucky, which seems to be just a consistent thing now. And Exercise actually joining him, putting up way more impact than I expected. So a lot of ways for the 3D Max team to win. The problem is there's just too many ways for them to lose as well. So I'm excited, but I'm also quite concerned.
Yeah. 3D Max are interesting because it's very much. Sorry, but he's been incredibly average. And then also, like, I have to give a shout out. If we're playing great CS, we have to kind of talk about the coach, which is Wasink. And I'm just going to say, this guy had a playing career, and this is his first coaching gig. When he was a player, he never in a single series played a top 20 ranked team a single time. He played 10 maps against top 30 teams and only 38 against top 50. Like, this has been a sort of top 100 advanced level player, if even that, for his entire career. And then he comes into a coaching role at 3D Max and very clearly knows what to do, which is cool. It's really cool. So again, more than the sum of their parts, and they're doing that really well. So let's see what happens. They're just on the edge of going top 10 in the Valve ranking as well, which is kind of crazy to say.
That is ridiculous, considering who they've actually beaten.
Yeah, but huge for them because we have in 2 weeks we have more invites coming out on the next next.
It's good for them. I'm not saying otherwise.
No,
it's absurd, considering
it is absurd.
They haven't really beaten a whole lot of people.
No, but it's cool. They're basically locked in for the second stage in the major, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
But is there anyone else that you think needs a lot of attention here? I feel kind of rough for Big, who have to open up with a mouse they'd never seen, and then have to play Eternal Fire after beating FlyQuest. I mean, it has been a bit of an event where like things have come back down to earth for them. To be honest, I was railing on them pretty hard during the preview for this event because they've essentially been this level of team all year, except for one series against Heroic. And that's taking the piss. How dare you? Like, just eliminate my pet favorite at the time.
Yeah.
Just to go and be terrible everywhere else in every other game. And Hyped has come crashing back down to earth. Early on when they were mid, at least he was playing well.
Yeah.
He's gone into oblivion, and now we got a random JDC pop off, but
Crimbo hasn't really been anywhere either.
Big have been very frustrating this year.
They have, and they're probably going to keep being that. I think they lose to Wildcard today, because last time we had the 12-0. That's the last time Wildcard and Big played each other. 12-0.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit, what the hell happened? What the hell happened?
Did you break?
My recording stopped and restarted.
Weird.
I need to check where.
Yeah.
So, hello, everyone. This is awkwardly a part of the show now. But how did it even happen? My bindings are in such weird places. How did I even hit home or end? Let's remove the hotkeys just so I don't hit them again accidentally. Right. Where did it stop? Good morning. Had such a great level. A lot of ways for the 3D Max team to win. The problem is there's just
very much there.
Okay, somewhere during the 3D Max conversation, it just randomly stopped recording and started again a bit later.
Super weird.
Yeah, I was just looking down to check the timestamp. And it says 3 minutes. I'm like, what the hell? I know we've been going for more than 3 minutes.
That we'll sort that out. This is something that would be I guess we can talk about this. We've been floating the idea of doing the show live instead on YouTube, and one of the reasons I guess would be production would be so much easier because you could.
I wouldn't have to re-upload and release.
Yeah.
Like it could just
because it would just be there. Like the one thing you would do is maybe add a thumbnail or something. So
yeah, all I have to do is thumbnail. That's not that hard.
Yeah. And it also becomes a morning show. Welcome to the Monday morning show. I really love the thought about having a CS morning show. Anyway, we might do that. We just haven't figured out how to yet.
Fuck's sake, this is frustrating. Okay, I'm not sure how much has been missed. Just breaking the fourth wall here. I know we talked about 3D Max. We talked about big. I think the big conversation's mostly been captured. Yeah, let's try and get back on rhythm. How the hell did that happen?
Yeah,
because when I used to have my key bindings in other places, I got why it could occasionally happen, but this is not one of those cases.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway. Oh, I know how. Never mind. Fuck's sake. Right. Do we give anyone else any attention? Is there anyone else we haven't mentioned that you'd like to talk about? Because
I would have talked about Mouse. I would have talked about Mouse more if I actually watched them, but I didn't because I'm wondering.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, they beat 3D Max 2-0. At that point, I'm like kind of paying attention, but yeah, that loss to FaZe, pretty resounding. Like,
did you watch the Mouse 3D Max game, or was it too early?
No. It was 8 a.m. bro.
Because I wouldn't put it past Mouse to pug through that game, to be honest. So if I'd watched it, I'd maybe had more of a clue about what they did. But I didn't either. So I don't know.
The only game that was at a watchable time was the game against FaZe, and that was Sunday. I was furiously editing and recording and FL Studioing on Sunday, so I wasn't really available to watch any CS. I tried to have the games open on a second monitor, but it just got too distracting. So I have no idea what happened in that match. All I can tell you is this. Torchi's had a great run. You know, I'm just looking numbers-wise. Torchi's had a great run.
Yeah.
Brolan's putting up IGL numbers now, although that's pretty much indistinguishable from his old numbers at times.
Yeah.
Spinks... Look, here's what's funny. Spinks now has Brolan's average rating from last year at 1.07. Yimfat is putting up Yimfat numbers. Zershan's putting up Zershan numbers. Nothing seems to have really changed that much, except we've got a better level out Torji right now.
Yeah. And I think I think right now they're still very much running on what they were doing before. It's literally just they moved around and there's somebody else calling the shots. I don't think Brolan has come with any huge sweeping tactical changes.
Well,
the way it sounds,
like, why would he?
No, yeah, the way it sounds. Why? The reason he would is because they kicked Shui because they didn't like his direction. Like, I mean,
yeah, but that's overall direction. It's not like they were like, he's not a good IGL. We need someone with better ideas of how to call, like Brolan. Like,
yeah, I mean, the thing they're saying is that he's. I'm not gonna say they're sort of veiling it, but to me, it sounds like Brolan is still not entirely comfortable in this role, which makes sense. But the way I've heard him talked about in interviews and stuff by Spinks and Cyclone, it's like, yeah, we're helping him out. He's doing this well. He still needs to work on, some of the aspects of leadership. So we'll see what happens. I think right now they're just kind of calling the old playbook. But the real test for him is going to be in like a month or two's time when their current playbook is found out and he has to sit down with pen and paper and make up new strats. That's probably going to be the big test for him as an in-game leader. And
I don't expect him to have to do any of that shit. I expect him to have to construct rounds in the mid-round, find solutions in the mid-round. That's what I expect my IGL to do. rather than building the strat book by himself.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
they have Cyclone for that. And
same difference. I mean, that's at some point they're going to start to struggle with that. And that's when he's going to have to
if there's a minute 15 on the clock, 2 men are dead, 1 opponent's dead, and my IGL's got pen and paper out trying to figure out what the fuck he should do, I'm quitting the game. I'm sorry.
Yep.
I'm just going to straight attack that phrasing. There is no planet where he needs to be on pen and paper mid-round.
No, I mean, that's
like,
not...
Hang on. How many are we? 3, 4. Draws Doodle of Mirage. We die here, we get kill here. At this point, someone else is dead. Someone's thrown their mouse at his head, and the game's over. There's no two ways about it.
Yep.
But yeah, no, the mouse mystery is going to remain for a little bit. Just, 8 a.m. games, it's a bit much, even for me. I mean, I've called myself the connoisseur of 9 a.m. CS. Honestly, the last week, most of the time it's been 9 a.m. I've been on a train back from somewhere. I didn't really have the time to be locked in on a game. But no, I'm sure I'll be able to do some demo study. Or at least some game tape review for MAUs in the coming week. See if anything's actually standing out to me. Odds are it's probably just going to be the Torji show. Torji gets to decide what Torji's doing. Torji hits shots. MAUs win rounds. That might be a large part of it.
Yep.
Yeah, oh man. The differential between Torji's CT and T-side profile is always fascinating.
It's going to be cool to see when he gets on stage, because last year he was such a great stage player.
He was on the average a fine stage player. The problem is he has a team who were on the average dog shit stage players, and that made him look so much better.
Yeah, and also most of his upper peers were also kind of dog shit on stage. Like, if we're comparing him to Wonderful.
Yeah, Wonderful did not have a great arena time either. But to be fair, he was able to stat his pads, if you know what I mean, with all the all the free, like, I call them free wins. They're obviously not free wins, but it's when the team is all clicking, everything's working and making sense. He's not going to take a lot of deaths, when they're cruising to those finals. On the back of, Imma hits this shot, Bit hits this shot, Jail hits this shot. Wonderful's given a freebie and doesn't miss it this time. When everything made perfect sense and worked out nicely, he was able to cruise through with a low DPR and have a nice stat line. But no, Torji never got that luxury. Outside of Pro League, nothing ever made sense in the playoffs for MAUs, really. And Pro League's Pro League. Like, it doesn't count as arena rating, really. So, interesting to see how this year shakes out for him. It'll be interesting to see how the AWPers all shake out this year, I think.
Yeah.
We've seen some changes, some shifts in the waters.
I think it's been really exciting. This is a tangent, and we're going to move on after this point. But I think Woxic and 910 have been really interesting to see how they sort of stepped up compared to last year, when Woxic was at best not a problem, I feel like. And then 910 as well was very up and down, because he started the year super weak, and then he was like MVP level at the one event they won, and then he was still good. But this year he's up until maybe the past few games with Senzu. In Katowice, he was definitely the best player for Mongols, I would say. So
yeah, Kato was. Senzu was injured, wasn't he?
He was injured. Mezzinho wasn't really there, but this event Senzu has been nuclear as well. So, yeah. Anyway, we have to move on.
We do. Well, we should. We don't have to. We should. We've pretty much
do whatever the fuck we want on our show.
We really can. So we're getting on to the small sites. And you have... Well, your point is quite simple. Open qualifiers are back, and nothing's ever good enough?
Nothing's ever good enough. All of you were screaming for more open qualifiers, and now they're here, and everybody's screaming about how bad they are. We've had a lot of open qualifiers. It was technically last week, but we're going to talk about it. Blast Open and IEM Dallas had their open qualifiers, and this week we have also had open qualifiers for PGL Bucharest. A whole swath of them, actually. PGL are running 4 of them for Europe, and I think they might have 4 for every region. Yeah. So a lot of open qualifiers. These are run on eSportal. And this is probably, honestly, if we're going to start here, this is probably the biggest issue. Full disclosure, I work for a direct competitor to eSportal, the platform which has more or less replaced eSportal in Sweden as the big matchmaking platform. As you know, that's where I work, one of the places. They have run open qualifiers there because PGL bought the place when they went bankrupt, and they've tried to turn it into their own like tournament platform, Faceit equivalent, Challenger mode equivalent. This has been bad. So in the first open qualifier, I don't know if you noticed this, but if you were were you even trying? Did you even know this first open qualifier was happening on Friday and Saturday?
Of not this week, just gone, but the week before.
This week.
This week. I might have done. Why? What?
Because if you knew it was going on,
I don't make mental note of exactly which one I'm seeing, and like I see games, you know. So if you tell me some of the teams, maybe I'll have remembered looking through it. But
what I was asking about is if you knew about this qualifier happening, you maybe would have tried watching one of the games. You couldn't because they didn't turn CSTV on in the servers.
Oh, okay.
You couldn't join to spectate this open qualifier. Only the players themselves could stream the games, and I think a few were, but like, yeah, that's a big failure on their part. This open qualifier is finished. NIP and Rebels went through, which is nice for NIP. They finally got their 10th ranked game, which put them on the ranking. Second open qualifier is going on. CST was enabled this time. You could stream the game. So it seems they just forgot in the first one. It hasn't wrapped up yet. It's wrapping up later today. We're into the top 16. But another issue, big tech problems. Everybody just got fucking locked out of eSportal entirely. The website went down. Like the website went down, and everybody just got the like Cloudflare. Sorry, you've been blocked, kind of thing. Error screen. And they weren't getting any servers. They weren't getting any games. It was like huge delays. No idea what happened, but it was some problem that everybody was having issues with. And yeah, since then, that's been part of the issue. eSportal, interestingly, they run their own anti-cheat, which, to cite myself, the cheaters I interviewed last year, which was one of the articles I put out, they said eSportal's anti-cheat was dog shit to the point where they could use free spin botting software and still use it without being detected for like 3 years on eSportal. That's the anti-cheat we were running in this professional qualifier. And I'm not going to say that anybody who was in the top 16 has cheated, but there's a couple of teams here that I definitely think people shouldn't have gone this far. But anyway, that's been a similar issue for the Dallas qualifier, which also happened. People maybe namely would have thought about a team called Hesta, who came through the open qualifier into the closed qualifier with two people who were making their HLTV debuts, and those two players in particular were completely popping off. And I'll be honest, even I thought they looked a bit sus, but nothing's happened. Look, my point really is that open qualifiers kind of suck. Like, they are actually kind of horrible to run. And I think it's a funny contrast that, you know, the discourse has gone from we need open qualifiers, we need to have more of them. Like, they're really fun to watch and we need them for the ecosystem, to these open qualifiers are horrible. What the fuck are you doing? How are you gonna fix this? Like, there's an ebb and flow to this. We need open qualifiers to the ecosystem, but they're also dog shit. And we are gonna get cheaters. It's a huge adminning problem. We are gonna get issues with this. So yeah. What gives?
It's always the case, though. Every time, we do something one way, the flaws of doing it that one way get exposed. Everyone's crying, screaming, throwing up, dying about how terrible it is that we did it that way without fixing the flaws of doing it that way. And then, naturally, we have the opposite side where if we don't do that, everyone's screaming, dying, crying, throwing up about how outrageous it is we didn't do that. So, yes, it's always going to happen. It's always been one of the key conversations surrounding open qualifiers is how do you deal with cheaters? Can you deal with them entirely? And can you run it in a way that's technically open enough, but not actually open in order to actually make it work? You know, I've always had this idea of like, what if you only use teams who'd it's open if you are within these requirements. Like, certain limitations. Like if you've played competitions of a certain level, you're allowed to try the open qualifiers. Semi-open qualifiers. It's the kind of thing where, again, it just becomes this huge admin job. And a lot of orgs who have to run open qualifiers, it's already resource intensive to run them point blank, to then try to actively monitor, filter out teams, and set these sorts of standards and enforce them, quite importantly. It just becomes too much work. So, no, we're in an awkward spot with open qualies, making them work. But look, the community reaction is the community reaction. It's always this way. It's predictable. You do things one way, people cry. Do things another way, people cry. You need to be perfect the entire time to have nobody crying, and that's just too much to ask.
Hell yeah. So yeah, it's fun. Open qualifiers are fun.
It's always fun to watch a team like Hester play, though.
Yeah, it's a bit fun. Everybody was basically hate watching the team. They went to the close qualifier and they started out against Gamer Legion, where they played Anubis, and they actually broke into a... Yeah, they actually took out a... I think they hit match point at 12-6. And everybody, like all of the Gamer Legion players, were like tweeting about this. They played a close nuke and then they lost Mirage. They went down to the lower bracket where they actually beat Nexus in a bit of a stomp, actually. And went through and won a map against Betboom as well, just for good measure. And now they're in all of these open qualifiers now as well. This random Russian team. I'm not saying anything. I'm not going to say what kind of software they're running.
I'm not going to say what kind of software.
I'm not going to say, I can't say that. What?
It was a cheating software. No, I don't actually think we have too much to lock in whether or not they were cheating. It's just hilariously sus the way they played.
Yeah. Honestly, while I'm on this point, this is not particularly related other than talking about cheating. We had CCT Series 17 wrapping up, and 500 got some pretty heavy accusations levied against them.
They always do.
But at this time, they had clips. They were a fuck ton of clips. And look, honestly, I watched the clips. Usually with radar cheats, if somebody has an accusation of that, it's either the conclusion you come to from watching the clip is either they're playing really good CS or they're cheating. In this case, when I was watching these clips, I was like, wow, 500 are playing some horrible CS and are getting lucky, or they're cheating. It's because they were doing random shit.
I can guarantee this. Having watched a lot of 500, much to my misfortune in my life, the odds are they were playing some horrible CS and getting lucky. Because they then, look, if you ever watch 500 play historically, you watch this Bulgarian sort of teams play, there's a few common threads, and it's often like, so y'all just chose to exec a Mirage 3 times in a row, and I'm talking with zero backup plan. It went wrong twice, but you won it once, and you just went back to it over and over again. And you're like, yeah, they're not playing the most advanced, detail-oriented, intelligent CS. They never have. But they're one of those teams who rely on set plays quite heavily, hit their shots, and know their jobs. Like, they know their role. And so to see them get accusations again, it's nothing new. It's really nothing new.
One of the clips which really made me feel this was the one that Kenzie saw dropped, where it was like, oh, Oxygen, 4 rounds in a row, he just completely guesses where the player is, and yes, he's correct every time. And like the one clip he sent was like, he enters A side, Mirage. It's a 5-man exec. There's only one player in the side, he's behind triple. And Oxygen just sort of glues his crosshair there and then swings it. Nobody else is in the side. But I'm also checking the radar at the same time. And it's like, wow, 0 of the 500 players are even checking the bomb side itself. Which is either, like, they're not even aware that if somebody was on default, they would have lost that round. No, like radar or otherwise. They would have lost that round if somebody was on default there. And that's sort of thing like, okay, it could be radar that they knew there was only one player on triple. Or they're just horrible, and they just got lucky that nobody was on default.
You're talking about the game against Bait where they won 2 T rounds on Mirage.
I think it might have been the game against... I can't say so posted, but I think it might have been from the Perry Vision game.
I'm from the Paravision game. Oh, okay. Because I'm like
Yeah.
looking at it.
Sorry, Parry. Not Paravision. Partisan. But yeah.
Oh, okay. I found the clip from Kenzie's Or. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to take a look at this. This
Yeah,
is worth our time.
Yeah, he's just glued to the triple angle, and that's an argument. Like the argument is that the argument here would be
okay. First clip I watch isn't sus because he literally hears Emmy throw a flashbang from his spot, which is dumb. Second clip. Let's go. Let me see if I can justify all of these. Let me see. Oh, this one is from the bait match. Okay. This is the famous 2T round bait match. Okay, so the second one where Oxygen is hard entrying.
Yeah, Oxygen is the guy a lot of people have pointed out. Honestly, that's just a good entry.
He's literally just clearing his spots. Okay, that's his job, is to run around and clear that. Next one. Oxygen again, of course. Crosses past the AWPer. Hard clears Sandwich.
I'm going to find the one I was thinking about.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be the next one in my list. Again, he's looking at Sandwich. Spelland's behind him looking at sight and looking at under. They are just hard execing and checking different things. It looks terrible in a limited context. But it could literally just be that they have set execs and know where everyone should be checking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a guess.
It could be.
He shot Emmy in the head because Emmy just naded. That's not sus. Emmy literally just threw a nade, then stood where he threw it from, and Oxygen shot him in the head. Like, what are we talking about? These aren't that sus.
I found the clip I was talking about where he just...
Yeah, pause it.
That one. In Discord. So, like, there's nobody on A side. There's one in jungle and one in connector. And I think they put a smoke down there eventually.
What game is this?
This would be... this might be completely different. Somebody posted this.
Potato was this recorded?
It's 9 Pandas, so it might be the CCT game. They played 9 Pandas at the start of the bracket. But he doesn't care about anything except for triple. And if you look at the radar, there's basically nobody even pointing their mouse towards default whatsoever.
Is everyone watching this clip actually retarded? It's a full exec. He's leading. He clears sight whilst he's running. He's aware of triple looking for a reswing. He then also looks jungle. And checks Sandwich with a brief clear. Like, he's cleared so many things that aren't triple and then gets round to swinging triple and shoots him in the head. This is nothing. This is nothing. Have none of you ever played Counter-Strike? This is nothing. Stop crying. They are 500. They play this very ugly style of CS that has very specific things absolutely locked the fuck in. If you think they're cheating, find something better than the entry fragger running an entry path. Like, seriously. Give me something more.
Actually, Glaive, Shushan, War2K, and Snappy agreed with Kenzie's source accusations.
I'm sorry, 3 of the 4 are just people who are always crying on the internet. I do not care. I do not care. I really don't care. Yeah. Like, honestly, I don't care. Give me something more convincing than those clips. Those clips are all dismissible.
Yeah, because that's the thing. If you're going to levy accusations like this is like...
If you want to be like, oh, they are, as a team, using radar hack, and Oxygen is only checking the places where enemies are, also show me the POV of everyone else who's checking literally every other angle.
Yeah, and then like you post 7 clips where, you know, they're holding an angle, and then they swing in and they get a frag. And then people in the comments are like, oh, every time they have the right angle. Like, you sort of showed 7 clips. Check the other rounds. Like, check every other round as well. Because you've seen 7 rounds where it happens. You haven't seen the other 14 where it doesn't. Like, so are you cheating?
Again, we are talking about, as I said, we're using clips from the half where they won 2 T rounds. They won 2 T rounds, and you're finding a T round where he happens to look the right way, and they win that round. Jesus Christ, maybe they're overly gambling on things to work and aren't running that great a T side.
Yeah.
Jesus. So, people.
That's kind of the thing. You can really look like you're cheating if you're just playing bad CS and you get lucky. it really looks like you are
Yes.
sus in that case.
They're not even showing me the most interesting POVs in some of these clips. Like the one clip where he's locked in on something, and I just see Rainwaker get 2 kills in the background. Like, just 2 kills in the background. Where's Rainwaker looking? What's Rainwaker doing? Because he's just finding kills. Just completely disconnected from this entry pack, at least from what you've shown me. Like, come on. This is not the way we should be screeching on the internet about it, cheaters. This is not what we should be doing. There were far more convincing Hester clips than this. And I'm still not sure Hester were cheating, like, realistically. So come on, you've got to give me more before I start screeching about 500 secretly having been cheating all these years. God, save me from this melodrama. Right.
Hell yeah.
Right, speaking of melodrama, well, hopefully not melodrama. Launders plans to save North American CS.
I haven't heard about this.
Circuit. Oh, it's an interview with HLTV he did.
Oh, yeah.
And I admire his optimism. Well, it's not really that he wants to save any CS. He wants to bring back this like LAN scene, this LAN vibe. And whilst I do love the idea of a LAN scene, there is always the problem of like who we're dealing with. Like, we are talking about North American CS, right? And he says he wants it to be like cross-platform, like not cross-platform, like across different games.
Yeah,
and that's a pretty cool idea. I mean, obviously,
he wants it to be DreamHack. I think
he said she wants it to be DreamHack,
cool.
and DreamHack is awesome. Yeah. If you've ever attended one, like as the not just the BYOC, but like the actual big stage they have for different events, that stuff's pretty cool. And it's through that I've met like Rafa, I've met like some of the cool Quake players, like some of the great Quake players when Quake Champions was being launched. Some of the all-time greats were there. I was able to have a couple of chats with them. That was pretty fun. And I love the idea because North America does have a history of having great players across games. Just, is there a game they've ever really dominated? No. That's the problem, as far as I'm aware. Correct me in the comments, one American who cares. But like, as far as I'm aware, there's never been that many like dominant periods for North America in any esport. But the idea of LaundersLAN to like kind of save the North American esports scene, especially the Counter-Strike scene, I think is interesting. Because if we watch Sweden as our great example, we're comparing to DreamHack. Even though Sweden is kind of shit right now, to be blunt, they are terrible. They don't have a top team. They have very few top players. And they could have a top team eventually if certain people got themselves in the right places, made optimal decisions for their careers, you know, weren't stuck in Swedish CS and living out other people's fantasies of what their rosters should be, we might have a more productive Swedish scene. But the fact that we have so much going on in Sweden at the grassroots level has kept it, despite being bad, has kept it alive. And that's something you can't say for places like the UK, where, yes, there are British LANs, but my word, does anyone care? Nobody really cares. Like, British LANs are more about, not necessarily the Counter-Strike, really. It's about people with PCs playing video games. It's not so much about the CS. And I think we could see, through this sort of movement, a re-emerging of just, like, interest in CS, and I think a rebirth of actual competition and a desire to win. Because that's been the big issue in North America, in the UK as well, but they're a far smaller market, where there is very little ambition and belief in actually developing into something. It's just you're playing games because, oh, I play games, man. And, oh, we have to try it, prac, bro, that's not cool. Look at my Karambit. Like, there's that sort of attitude in the Anglo-Saxon, like, Counter-Strike world. And where hopefully, with this sort of arena, we can bring back a little more, like, you know, desire to win, desire to compete, and not necessarily fix everything or make a team overnight, but potentially start seeing younger players taking the game more seriously, better prac, better development, perhaps the opportunity to make a viable academy system through North America where, you know, it might be highly regionalized because of the size of the continent, but at least make some effort. And we know that nations like Mongolia, they've made it basically to the top of CS through LAN cafes. Now, sure, LAN cafes are a dead thing in the UK and the US. They're not really something we do. I've seen a few PC bangs like open up in London, but they're mostly just like trying to imitate Korea, and they sell Korean snacks, and it's it's targeted at career boos. Like, let's be real, it's all League players eating spicy ramen and, I don't know, wearing weird glasses. It's not actually about the culture of PC bangs coming back, but an extensive local LAN culture could do something similar in terms of allowing people to be discovered, allowing people to meet other Counter-Strike players, actually compete in a setting that drives you to win rather than just be the coolest dude to ever win a pug, which doesn't get you anywhere. So that's kind of my interest in this movement, is if we can bring back a lot of Counter-Strike specific LANs, but I know his ambition is to do more of the DreamHack thing, but just a LAN culture and this extended like internal competition to drive competition outwards, in terms of getting better at beating each other so we can go out and beat everyone else. I think we could see some positive development. We wouldn't have to rely on complexity trying to sign players like NACS. We wouldn't see these desperate moves from the tier 2 and 8 teams. They rather might be able to develop academy players, take their time, and then actually have something worth talking about in 5 to 10 years, rather than the path they're on right now, which is a slow crawl to extinction as they get replaced by import players.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting idea. I think maybe, I'm not going to say it's too late. It would have been nice if this was more of an ongoing effort, more than something which just is happening right now. It's cool that Launders is doing it. He has a very big following, obviously.
Yeah, he might build the next great Canadian academy, for all we know, through this sort of motive.
Because he probably is one of the single people who is best placed to do something like this. And from what I've heard, LaundersLAN has been awesome the times that it's been run, because it has happened.
Yeah, it's happened twice already, hasn't
it? Yeah, the last one was a little bit of a... the second one was a bit of a meh, because they had issues that they couldn't control with the venue, with like power going out. So they basically had to skip half of the event, unfortunately. So they had groups A through D, and then the C and D groups they had to be cancelled, unfortunately, because they had network issues at the venue itself. But the one before that, I've heard, was really good. So yeah, I mean, this seems like a really cool thing. If he can grow this, it seems like it's a really cool thing as well, because he has a lot of branching interests personally. Like, I know he's into trading cards, like he's into a lot of different games, and it seems like he's really put it together so that it isn't just a CS event. It is more of like a cross-platform festival.
To be blunt here, if we make a Quake comeback at these sorts of LANs, like we try to bring Quake back, I'm here. The amount of times I've tried to drag my friends kicking and screaming into Quake, like when Quake Champions was a thing, like I bought the premium version so we could host our own servers to try and play with them. I did everything I could to try and get them into Quake, because arena shooters are fun as fuck. And if you're telling me you can bring that back, like, get rid of this soft-minded, every game's got to be rewarding. No, you got to suck for like 150 hours of Quake before you can even be okay. Bring that back. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think this would have been. I think this would have been really cool. I love these kind of LAN events, and it seems like there's a lack of it in North America. So cool if it could happen.
Yeah, and modeling it after the Swedish scene might be interesting. Maybe they should get some Swedes in to explain to them how to do it. Maybe give them a few pointers here and there. So here's step 1: you get a bunch of AWPing IGLs.
Mm-hmm.
Step 2, you give them talent and then waste it for 10 years.
Yeah.
Step 4, success.
Yeah. Perfect.
That's exactly how it should be done.
Yep.
All right, we have the Eternal Shuffle, as we always do. I'm trying to put in a timestamp, but it's all gone to shit, so I have no idea what to even say. Do you want to grade these ones?
I can grade these ones. We have quite a few here.
Right. This is confirmed. These 2 removals from Saw.
Oh yeah, because they said that before the event. They said after the event, Roman and SHR are going, and they're going international. This is they've said it publicly. It's not even just rumors.
All right, Saw cutting Roman and SHR. Where do we stand on this one?
I think that's like cutting them in general. I as much as like it sucks seeing a decent national team opting to go international, I think this is still an A. I think it is the right move to make. Because for a lot of countries, I would have said you can just stay national. Like there's a lot of talent in there, but Portugal isn't exactly one of those places for me. It's not the biggest country in terms of CS, so I think they're making the right move there. I'm not at all sure who they're going to get to replace them. I like on the fly, I couldn't tell you who I even think they should get, but it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Muter is staying probably means he keeps the IGL spot, but I would say they're probably a big enough operation where they could get some pretty good talent. Like, you know, yeah, like upper tier 2 talent could probably end up here. So they already have a non-Portuguese coach who I think we both rate quite highly. It's Golden, at least as a caller.
As a caller, we liked him, didn't we?
Yeah, so things could get good. They're kind of falling at the moment because they've been failing for most of the spring season. So it's nice that they're sort of pulling the plug now when they still have a hope of making it into the major circuit with the regional qualifier and stuff. I probably would have had anyway, but then they have some time to work for that, and they can probably make it into the major with the caliber of players they're going to be able to pick up. So that's going to be cool, and we have maybe our first mid-season shuffle in the tier 1 layer of competition where they still are. Yeah, by invitation.
The pieces they're keeping are, Muteris, Story,
Agil.
Whatever the fuck. I mean, it's all right.
Story is a fine keep. Agil, I've heard that he is supposed to be super talented, but he hasn't really done anything.
Not on this version of not on this team, really. Like,
no. Well, I think what they had to do, if they cut Roman and Achille, I think they might have lost their 3-man core, though. So I think maybe they've sort of been forced to cut SHR because they probably wanted to get rid of Roman. He's been there for ages, and he's been terrible. He's been terrible. Roman maybe also wanted out. So
the problem I have is that I'm not moved by Story. I'm not a big fan of Story. I think Muteris calls a strong game sometimes, but yeah. No, they need some big name signings in terms of tier 2 caliber at least.
Honestly,
really care.
I think it's interesting there. I haven't actually read into if they specifically said English speaking, because you could definitely. There's a potential you could get Brazilian players in here.
I guess
wouldn't be the worst thing. You can probably find like a cracked out Brazilian kid somewhere in the 10 to 15 Brazilian ranking, and try to make something work. You're probably better off trying to get like what I was thinking was like, they can sign Hooksy, but if they're keeping Muteris, he's probably staying on the call, so they won't. Yeah, but it's something similar. There's players like that floating about. Lekro is possible.
Yeah, now we're getting stupid.
Lekro and Satsanito.
Ugh. Anyway. Why would anyone do that to themselves?
Because they have Golden. It's like that's
terrible.
I just thought
next. Let's put a fucking full stop on that nonsense. Monty cutting Ducha, if that's the official pronunciation I've been told to use. Dia is gone. What do we think?
He benched himself. Probably like a C+ or something. I don't know. Monty aren't really. I don't know. They're half decent at the moment. They're doing fine. They went 3-0 in the CCT Swiss. They beat Fnatic, but then they also lose to teams like Apogee in the other CCT playoffs.
Yeah, they finished. Series 16 they finished second. 17 they go out in groups. 18 they're now straight to playoffs. Look,
they're very up and down.
They're very up and down, and I'm going to be real. Dika is not the reason they win games. Let's put it that way. He's not been great, and they've been, trying to integrate the new IGL, new Rifler and Ryu. It's a process, and I don't think they've done a terrible job. I think they've done a pretty decent job. So losing Dika is not a big deal because he's just not been that good.
I wonder if maybe he was against the idea of going away from the Polish speaking part of it all, because they did have that. And I wonder if maybe he disagreed with that move and decided to bench himself. I don't know. I think Dika still has some qualities. We can't really deny that he was still on like a top 2 team a little while ago. And I think he was and I think he was a little while ago. It was quite a long time ago. But I think he was pulling his weight, I think. I don't think he was by any means towards the tail end it was grim, but like in that prime end roster, I think Dika was filling his spots. So I'm kind of hopeful.
I mean, in prime Ents days, he was a guy who was there, who played his role fine. That's the problem with Dika. I don't have a lot of great things to say.
I just mean I think he should sit somewhere above where Monty have been on
think
paper.
That's unfair. Honestly, I don't think he deserves that at all.
All right, fine.
not inherently.
He can land somewhere. He's taking a break until after the major, and I'm assuming he's just gonna end up in kind of nothingness. I think Key isn't Key also on Monty's bench.
No,
he's actually free agent. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
Good luck.
Go play with another one of those Polish fives. Like, it's whatever. It's really whatever. Tricked is this announced or is this rumored that their roster is going to be Nodios, Valde, Leaks, Salazar, Queenix, and Regin's going to be coaching?
Yep. This is announced. If I'm going to grade this, I think it's a probably a B+. They pick up I think picking up Valde is actually a good move, and Regin as well. The fact they kind of want to stick together there kind of is a bit of a vote of confidence for Valde's calling, I think. They pick up the core from whatever the fuck they were called.
Ecstatic?
Ecstatic, thank you.
Oh, then Gaiman Gladiators, but yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. Which is not the worst. Queenix and Nodios are eternally decent, but they're never gonna break into the same. Like, they're never gonna break into a major. I think I'm gonna say this is probably like a B-, because I think if you were building a Danish lineup trying to re-enter CS like this, and you're getting players of the caliber like Valde and a coach like Regin, I think you could have done better than Nodios, Queenix, and Salazar and Leaks. Because I mean, Hooksy's about. I don't know if they even wanted him. Nikodos is around. Bird from Sky is around. There's better Danish players I think you could have gone for. Even if you were going for the Gaming Gladiator score. TMB is around as much as that Ecstatic lineup. Actually, no, sorry. That Ecstatic lineup's still intact. Sorry, I thought they had cut them. I'm getting my lineups confused. In any case, I think there are definitely better players you could have had. So maybe a bit under-ambitious, or maybe they just couldn't afford them. What do I know? Patty, another one of those guys. I think you definitely could have had on this team. Anyway, I have just realized, weren't Nodios and I might have made a blunder. Weren't Nodios and Queenix literally on the team that made the major in Copenhagen?
And I've just said couldn't remember.
And I've just said they wouldn't make the major. Yeah, they were.
I mean, you can say that. They won't make a major. As well.
Yeah, they won't make a major. They already have, though. But yeah,
good for them. Good
for them.
This is the most mid-tier Danish bollocks I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's a bit like that. Yeah,
it's just, hey, are there talented players in Denmark? In theory, do we have any of them? I mean, if you believe in Leaks, realistically, like if you think Leaks is a good enough player, then you kind of do. But otherwise, nothing moves me about this roster. I mean, honestly, if you're gonna get Leaks, get Slime. Can we stop recycling Salazar? Bro's just so not going anywhere. It's just not the guy. It's done. We tried 100 times to make Salazar work, I feel like. And I've been sold 100 propaganda lies. Just like I was with Cabby, and I never believed in him. I'm still right. Like, yeah, it's a whatever roster for me. OG, Cut Modo, and a testing Afro currently.
this like a D plus. I don't know. I don't know if you had to cut Modo, and I don't think Afro is a significant upgrade. I mean, if you were cutting Modo, I would hope you would get somebody who's actually good. Because Modo, yeah. I'm not. Modo hasn't been great.
Look. It's a very big shift in philosophy between which kind of meh you want. Do you want really safe meh, or do you want really dumb meh? Like, one's trying not to lose you games, one's trying way too hard to win you games.
Yeah.
Which is really better? Like, let's be honest, long term. I'm not sure you've achieved much here.
Neither. I think it's a bit of a side grade. Afro has been good. Like, he has been good at points in his career. So
he's been all right. His chaotic nonsense has been occasionally not a terrible thing.
I'm going to be entirely honest. I think you just as well could have gone for, like, Smooya. Because if you were going for mid with potential, Smooya is at least going to give you a 120 in these games.
He's going to farm online, in low-level online games, he will. And Afro can, but is also just as likely to throw a bunch of situations.
Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah,
it's a D plus. I think I said.
Yeah, D plus is fair.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense to me. C9 released Groove and are exiting CS entirely. Well, not exiting CS entirely. They already did, but they're not promising any return to CS, essentially.
They phrased this in a funny way because a couple of weeks ago when they cut somebody, I think it was maybe when they sold Exile and Bet Boom, or if they, whatever happened, they did say something like, oh, in a couple of weeks, we're going to be ready to announce our next steps in Counter-Strikes, and that next step was apparently exiting, which I think we all knew, and I said it was a good idea, and I think they've done a good job. I'm not going to grade this because it's just they've let somebody go, and they should also let Perfecto go. They still have. Did you see that Perfecto wrote on Telegram after this announcement? He said, "Kick me, please," on Telegram.
Oh, he wants to be out of his contract, doesn't he?
Yeah,
it's fair enough.
Yeah. Not much more to say.
9Z cut DGT after quite a while.
I think, I think 5 years he's been there. I think 9Z are kind of floundering a little bit because I'm not really sure they know what they're doing anymore. I don't think cutting DGT is a bad thing necessarily. He's been their big workhorse. He's been a big star player. Or, well, he's been their star player for a long time. Even on this lineup, he was the best player. I just don't know what this is supposed to accomplish. But then again, like, South American teams are a bit weird, where sometimes you can cut a player who's doing really well and get another player who doesn't look as good on paper, and suddenly they work perfectly. So,
but DGT's been calling of late, has he not? Or is it Max?
I would imagine that's Max, but we can check. It's Max.
Yeah.
Max is the caller per Liquipedia.
Look, bringing in Lucan, he's kind of meant to be a bit more of a star.
Yep.
And I guess, at some point you do have to make sacrifices to try and make those the players you want to frag work. You can't just have fraggers. And maybe DGT just has a bit of an influence over the team in terms of style, in terms of mid-rounding. He probably has more influence and input than, others who haven't been there a while. So maybe they just needed a change of perspective. See what someone else can bring to the table.
Yeah,
but it's getting weird for 9Z, isn't it?
Yeah. Very quickly, they've gone from like a solid top 12 contender in the world to nothing. Like, so yeah, the Lucan move was weird. They've also played 4 maps after that and decided to cut another player after that. So it's super weird. I can't really grade it without knowing who comes in, and I think there's so many unknowns, especially with South American teams in general.
Yeah. It's odd.
So,
I'm a bit all over the place. Party astronauts disband. Brackets drama, as you've put it in the notes.
Yeah, this is actually semi-notable because I think there's some pretty good. There were some decent players on here if we're talking about saving NA. They picked up players like Peeping and OG Wizard. I think Peeping has moved on since then, but OG Wizard, Ukrainian player playing in North America, 19-year-old, has been really good statistically. You know, it's somebody that maybe a team like a team like Nouns could have looked at, which eventually would have fed into the ladder moving upwards. This team was very close to doing really good shit. I think they were one game off of qualifying for the qualifier for Blast Open. And they were like second place in Challenger League, which had a realistic chance of getting them into Pro League. They're so and then what I've gathered has happened, they can't keep competing in Challenger League if they made a roster move. And what I've gathered has happened is, without consulting the rest of the team, Ben, Leet, and Fang decided they were going to cut Walco, which led to Axe also leaving the team. Because he was like, how the fuck are you not consulting the coach when you're making a roster move? And, well, you know, since they can't keep playing Challenger League, the team has just entirely disbanded. There was a lot of talk about this on socials, and you can read all about it at dust2.us, M&M's, among others. And his colleagues have put together nice recap articles there. But yeah, some players are now available that previously weren't. And people are pointing fingers. And it was kind of fun to read, to be honest. It's sad, but it's fun to read this stuff from across the pond.
Okay.
Yeah. If I'm gonna grade it, I think it's an F, because how the fuck are you throwing your entire team in the sea because you, after a month, you want to cut a random player? So, and this weird coup d'etat.
FlyQuest have added Marie to finish their roster.
I think this is for the first time.
FlyQuest Red. I think just anyone's one.
Yeah. Well, you know,
just in case anyone was like, "Who is this?"
It would have been an upgrade either way, to be honest. Having just shat on FlyQuest entirely, I don't think they would have been that much worse if they put Marie in for Elias. But I think there's an A+. Marie is super cracked, and FlyQuest Red could really use this extra firepower. And I'm kind of like, if they don't. We've been hopeful for them at basically every single Impact League season so far, and they just don't really make it happen in the finals. But I'm hopeful for them this time. Because with Marie, that's a huge amount of firepower being added.
I mean, she does have a Danish flag rather than a North American one, but that's about as far as I'll extend you in terms of olive branch on her firepower. We had this debate already. Like, I'm not
we
sold.
have. Like Astralis W, as they were called.
Yes.
They had for the longest time, they had two players going for them, and it was Marie and Ismo. And you wouldn't see it in the Impact seasons because they were dog shit in the Impact seasons. But literally every single competition outside the one that mattered, they were cracked out of their minds. They were destroying in like the Cash Cups, they were destroying in all of those games. But then I guess they were just too shit to compete in the context of their own team. But, you know, Marie was the bigger shining star than compared to Ismo, I think. And I think this is still a good move. I think it's a really good move. And it's adding even yet more firepower where you already had someone like Bibian. So I think it's an upgrade for sure. And I think it's a good move. And I think it would have been sad if Marie wasn't competing. So yeah, props, A+.
Yeah, we'll see. It's not like they lost a bum. It was Kaude who left.
Akere also solid, but I think Marie is an upgrade. They've played. They've already played a couple of games this year, and it's been rough because they've only
played against men's teams.
Yeah, they played CCT and the Blast qualifier because they were highly ranked enough to get an invite. They played some really close maps. They had a 10-2 lead against Might, which is a top 100 team. Sorry, I hit my mic. Top 100 team in the world, and they lost to 13-11, which is a monumental joke. But they had overtime maps, several of them, which is I don't know if it's a first, but it's definitely closer than a lot of men's team versus women's team maps are.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. mean, Kade was, a 1.2 rated AWPer. Marie does not AWP, so we'll see
She
what
does
the hell's
not.
going to go down.
I haven't considered that.
That was one of my concerns. I thought you'd bring it up at some point. Like, is she going to AWP? Because I haven't seen her AWP so far.
Emi is AWPing. Emi. Yeah,
Emi, I'd assume, but...
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, yeah, she is the one who had the big series versus Might, isn't she? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a close series. Honestly, that was basically neck and neck versus Might.
Yep. And that's a top 100 team.
Technically, yeah. By HLTV ranking, yeah. That's fair. Right. Metasport X. Have added Pakish as a coach.
Yeah, I put this in because Pakish has been on with you before.
Yes.
Yeah, Metasport X. I'm not sure if their lineup is on HLTV, but they're actually kind of going upwards because this is basically the team that Metasport put together to play in the Norwegian League. They've since, for this season, they're not going to play in the Norwegian League.
And Zane, Straxy, Kronks, Zappa, and Mac.
Yeah, so very deep level fans of Swedish CS and NIP will recognize Kronks and Straxy. They were on this weird, unannounced, full Swedish academy team, which existed in 2021 or 2022. Zapper is an old, not old, he's 20 years old, but he's been around in Norway for a while. He's very well regarded there as kind of an up-and-comer. The others I don't really know about, but Pakish, we rate. And now he's here as a coach.
Yeah, cool dude. Hopefully this goes well.
Cool dude. I think it's an A.
Yeah. Hey, one of our boys got a job. We're happy.
Hell yeah.
CS2 News signed one day. This is the FE side, is it not?
Yes, they signed. They qualified for Impact League, so they
they will be playing in it. Yeah.
CS2 News. They're basically supporting a bunch of different. They have a bit of a mixed team which plays qualifiers, and they played the Bet Boom LAN kind of thing recently as well. But this is like a proper. They've signed this team. Actually coached by Vital, the Lebanese player. Cool.
I was about to say, the YouTuber?
No, the Lebanese player who shows up on GG How and EXO and stuff. That's going to be... It's I think Vispel is the only player people would recognize from here. And even that is vague because I don't think she's ever actually made it to Impact. But I think she's a bit of a face-it grinder kind of player.
Okay.
Get organizational support, so I'm...
Oh. We just lagged out for a sec. Never mind. We're back.
Yeah.
All right. That's the Eternal Shuffle.
Yep.
Finally, we do have the prospects of the week. Yes. I'm trying to do timestamps. Just can't. Just got to do it all in post. But all right. I'm going to lead because I've got a bit of a weird pick. Quack, you're frozen, and you're back, and you're frozen.
Frozen for me.
Yep. This is fun. I'm not sure what's going on in the background.
All right.
Are you torrenting porn again?
No, I'm fine. This is on your end.
Well, I'm not torrenting porn. Must be my flatmate.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
I have picked.
Yeah.
I have picked Bro.
Bro.
Edge, if you can pick a prospect when they've already played for Astralis, won an event, and they have. I think he has like $400,000 in total winnings as well, or something like that. It's 160,000. It is a bit of an edge pick, but I think considering where he is, considering the sort of comeback he's making, I think this is still a decent pick. Bro is on NRG, and he is farming in North America, which I would for. I am Dallas. Marsborn and Boss announced, which were exactly the kind of teams they couldn't beat before. But with Bro, he will beat them. So they're going to be in Dallas, and we're going to see them back on LAN, and that's just a good, nice little turnaround for Bro, who seems to be very fit to play again.
Yeah, okay. Well, he's 22 and he's made 160k in his career, but prospect, nonetheless, according to Quack, your time in Europe doesn't count. Reborn again in the US. He's been dunked into a tank. He's evangelical now. He's going to come up with all kinds of sacrilegious heretical nonsense. But hey, he's had
Alonso.
He's had a fun time fragging out against North American teams. And also this weird Exercitus team who showed up in the qualies from, is it Peru? Yes, Peru, which is fun. That's pretty cool. But no, I mean, look, we knew he'd do well when he went over to North America. It was pretty predictable. They have managed to qualify for IM Dallas, which is nice, fun for them. We'll see how he plays on LAN with this team, and if he can make a run out of it, like a true run. Because, look, there are some pretty difficult teams here at Dallas. There's also teams from Asia. There's some teams from Brazil. There's some opportunities to actually go win games. And, you know, Fury are playing. They can lose to any 5 players. Sure, usually European players, but we're extending it considering how close they were to losing to Imperial FE on a map. I do think, yeah, I mean, it's a weird pick. I've made that objection loudly. But at least, hey, he has been fragging. And hopefully he can keep fragging out, make this team work. Because I've been rooting for like HexT to get somewhere. Maybe not necessarily pretending he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, but I do believe he's got some talent and some promise considering he's North American. You know, it's notable. So yeah, a fine pick, except for the problems. On my end, I have picked Ozik of 1win. Now, he first came to my attention when I was watching a demo. I think it might have been a Nota demo, where he's been recently promoted to 1win at that point, and he just bangs Nota's head off like 4 rounds in a row, and I was kind of like, holy crap, what is going on here? And I've given him more attention, and yeah, Ozik is insanely sharp. Playing on this side, he's more of a late round player, you know, clutch and trade heavy. An absolutely unknown 18-year-old. They had a pretty good run this week. I mean, he did as an individual playing this sort of... This is the LAN, right? Yeah, the BetBoom LaundersLAN. Well, despite them going out with only 1 series victory, Ozik went toe-to-toe with everyone and performed quite highly. Even against Spirit Academy, the notorious Spirit Academy, he dropped to 1.33. Like, he did everything he could to get his team some wins. It's a shame no one else really decided to step up with him and shine. Cronus, Hobbit, okay performances, but overall, just Ozik really to highlight. And yeah, I think he's had a banger week. He's definitely a dangerous player. Just wondering if we're ever going to see his face. He's been a blacked out silhouette on HLTV for as long as I can remember.
One of us is definitely torrenting porn.
I'm certainly not. I'm checking. Steam's not installing anything, and none of my torrenting services are open. Like nothing's open. Like besides this.
Anyway, we'll make do. We're nearing the end of the show anyway. I didn't hear your final point, but I'm assuming this is my turn to speak. And yeah, Ozik has been great at this LaundersLAN event. And I think we maybe, at least I first noticed him when we were literally talking about him joining 1win from this weird Enjoy team. He played in their academy before. And we were like, who the fuck are Kronis and Ozik? And, you know, yeah, now it's worked out. They're obviously great players, Ozik especially maybe. So it's cool to see stuff working out.
Yeah, hopefully we see a lot more of them. This Hobbit-led lineup is a bit of a weird one, but it's interesting. But all right, that wraps up the show. We are, I think, about an hour 40 minutes in. Once I combine the 2 parts,
we would be, yeah.
That needs to be done. But all right, if you made it this far, you are my hero. Thank you for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Leave a comment telling us your thoughts on any of the topics, any of the things we discussed. And remember that members get access to a bunch of special content and the right to vote and etc. etc. You know, the shit people die for usually. So become a member, please and thank you. But all right, that's all for this one. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.